Right. Our keynote speaker then today started her business by making homemade remedies for her 2 children who had sensitive skin. She spent her days on stands on rural trade shows and driving boxes of products to independent retailers, often covering hundreds of miles a day. Childs Farm's first national retail listing came in 2014 with Boots, and now it's the UK's #1 baby and child toiletry brand. Sadly, and these things do happen, Joanna isn't able to join us in person today. But she did so want to be here, and she has very kindly agreed to join us via live video link.
Back in the day. Well, one of them was very close to us. So I met this chap at a Little Chef. He was horrified when I said, let's meet there. But actually, he ended up having a decent cappuccino, so he was very happy. And I explained to him, and this chap owned a manufacturing place down in Kent. And also, you may know him better as the founder of Revolution Beauty, a chap called Tom Allsworth. So Tom took a look at my sketches for the products and how I wanted them to look and my premise for what the ingredients should be. And he said, I think you're onto something here. So I followed up with him and we started making the same formulas. But if we dial back to Unstoppable, at the time, my life was in turmoil. I was separated from my husband, who was a functioning alcoholic. I had 2 small children, and unbeknown to me, he had mortgaged our house up the wazoo. So I was sitting there very unaware that really we were just about to be made homeless. I was just about to get divorced, and I had nothing. And so it was one of those moments where life got really, really tricky. But I had these formulations, I had this idea, and these products were working on Bella, and they were really helping her eczema. And it really was, for us, it was life-changing. So I had credit cards. So I did a run of 1,000 bottles of our first 5 products. And I gave them out to friends of the kids, parents of kids at school, and said, could you try them on your kids? And all the feedback that came back was, these are remarkable. They've cured my daughter's eczema. Her skin's never looked so good. My daughter can never use anything with fragrance. And so became the validation that I was actually onto something. And for those of you that know Childs Farm, there are some really sound principles about it. One is its natural origin ingredients. I don't want any crap in there. So even the preservatives were soil association permitted preservatives, but I didn't want it to be organic. I thought that was I just thought that was too much and too expensive to pass on to my consumer. The products have to work. They really have to work and soothe and look after sensitive and irritated skin, but also they have to smell good. So we used organic essential oils. We use a lot of orange, tangerine, because in our home, we used to burn it because it makes you feel happy. So think about a satsuma in your Christmas stocking, and think about, those hotels where they have those, the orange juice machines that come out. Just orange just makes you smile and it makes you happy. And then I used other fragrances, which we all loved. And then the absolute icing on the cake were the labels. And the labels are just a blast of excitement around my kids. And so it was them, their pets, their ponies, based on our farm, which was originally called Childs Farm. And so everything about it was really authentic. And that was super, super important to me. So dial back. I've now got products that have gone to friends and family. I've got in a transit van. I'm going from school fair to consumer shows. I'm traipsing up and down the country, smiling and dialing, literally delivering products to buyers. It's relentless. It is utterly relentless, and you cannot give up. You cannot stop. You have to keep going. And I totally 100% believed in my product. I'd seen the proof of it on my daughter, on family and friends and their kids, the difference it made to their skin. So I knew this was great. And the absolute step change for us was when our buyer at Waitrose said, look, you know, I love the idea. It can help with eczema prone skin, but I need some evidence on the front of that pack that says this is suitable for sensitive and eczema prone skin. So go and do a user trial, go and do a clinical trial to prove that. Now, a clinical safety trial is a lot of money. And the credit card still had a bit of space. So I committed to do this clinical safety trial, and it was the best thing I ever did because the results were phenomenal. And it was something like 99% of people said that this had soothed their eczema and in fact made it better. Remembering this wasn't a medical product. If it's medical, it's a totally different a stream you have to go down. But it was just phenomenal, the results. But then when I dug deeper into it, they only tested the product on people who were over 18. They had to have medically diagnosed eczema, but they had to be over 18. And I thought, well, that's not giving me any comfort because, you know, my children are tiny. And as a mum, I want to know that it's going to work for my kids. So I then, at the time, it was an enormous step. I undertook a user trial with mums whose children were aged between 0 and 18 months with medically diagnosed eczema. Now, those of you that have children with eczema will know, I mean, I would never have done this as a parent. I'd have been too terrified. But these amazing women allowed us to trial our products over a 2-week period. And again, the results were phenomenal. And that to me said, right, okay, I'm comfy now. I'm comfy. We can market these to parents and their children. And so on our label went suitable for sensitive prone skin. And Waitrose said, yes, we'll take it. And what was even better is our buyer at Waitrose, Andrea, handed a load of product around to a lot of the staff. And in a supermarket, you have something called you have a planogram, and that's a diagram which shows where you put all the products and how many products you put on every single shelf. And every time they do a range review, which maybe once or twice a year, they agree which products are going where, and that signs it off. Well, one of the people that tried the products was the head planogram person at Waitrose. And originally they were taking 3 SKUs, which is 3 products. And this woman went back to Andrea and said, this stuff is absolutely bloody brilliant. You need to take 6. I'll find the space. And she made space. I don't know how she did it. So we could launch in Waitrose with these 6 products. So at the same time, we were talking to Boots. And by this stage, my divorce was in full throes. We'd managed to find a buyer for our house, which left me enough money to pay the rent on the new house for a year. So I was fully committed at this stage. We also, though, had a big investor lined up. And this guy was going to put in 3 million quid. 4 days before we were to sign the documents, they pulled out. And at this stage, I had 2 more weeks left in my home. I'd had to rent the house early because I couldn't afford removal people. So I borrowed a friend's horse box, and every evening I was moving furniture from the old house to my new house. And I was in the middle of what ended up being quite a brutal divorce. And it was one of those moments where literally time stopped. And the man that was pulling out didn't have the common courtesy to phone me himself. He got someone else to do it. And I took this call, and it's as though the world stood still. And I made a choice there and then that was not to stop and take it, but I made a choice then to be unstoppable. I put the phone down, I got in the car, I drove to the station, I got on a train to London. I went straight to this guy's offices and I knocked on the door. The rest of his team literally were cheering me on and let me in. We walked into his office and I said, I need to, he said, I will endorse you to Boots to make it be sure that you've got enough money to launch with them. And I said, thank you. And I mean, literally, I was trembling. I mean, I was like a shaking leaf. He did a call with Boots, and he started the call by saying, you're all on the call here because I've decided to pull out of investing in Child's Farm. And by the way, Joanna's got no money. Which, when a retailer is just about to list your product, they need to know that you've got enough money to be sustainable, because otherwise they're not going to give you that space on shelf. And I sat there and I thought, you utter bastard. And Boots said, we'll see you. This was Friday afternoon. They said, we'll see you first thing on Monday morning in Nottingham. I said, I will be there. So I had a weekend, as you can imagine, that was slightly testing. But on Monday morning at 5 o'clock, I got in the car and I drove up to Nottingham. And I sat outside and I thought, you've got nothing to lose. You're going to fight your cause and you're going to tell them that you'll find the money and that, please God, not give me the listing. What I wasn't expecting is to walk through the door and there was a room full of people from every corner of Boots. And they said, we love your brand. We love you. We will do anything to help you. What can we do? We're not going to change the listing. We are going to have you. What do you need? Do you need to borrow some money? What do you need? And that, for me, was a catalyst to just say, do you know, you're onto something? And I don't know how I did it. I just turned around and said, do you know, that's really kind. That's really kind of you to offer me some money, but I'm fine. I'm sorted. I've got some money coming in. So that's great. I didn't have a bean, but I didn't want to be beholden to a retailer. And long story short, within 2 weeks, I'd gone to an angel investor consortium that raised money for distressed businesses. And I mean, even now, it just sort of sticks here when I think we were a distressed business. And I met my business partner, a chap called Andrew Leake, and that was a complete change for me. He brought in family and friends, and we got, by July of that year, that was all happening in April, by July of that year, not only have we launched in Boots and Waitrose, we'd launched a 20-episode cartoon on the Cartoonito channel. We'd launched an advertising campaign, and I had these wonderful investors behind me. But life sometimes just keeps throwing shit at you. And this is when you understand how unstoppable you really are. And that August, my husband took me to court. I mean, I didn't have a pot to piss in. He took me to court. And I remember being in that courtroom, and I have always been quite robust. I sort of slightly old school. Every time I remember crying on my grandfather, and he told me to leave the room until I'd composed myself. So, we'd always been sort of quite hard, as it were, keeping everything in. And in the middle of this courtroom, and I had got a local solicitor from the local town, and my husband had brought this big swinging dick from the top divorce firm in London. And I was paying, my credit cards were on speed at this stage. I was paying for my divorce on a credit card. And unbelievably, the court gave him a share in my business in perpetuity. And I look at it now and I think they did that because they didn't think I had a hope of being successful. They thought I was just some twitty woman with too many plums in her mouth. They judged me by my cover and my voice, and really did shaft me. But my God, that fired me up. But at the time, what I hadn't realized as well is I had a 2-kilo tumor wrapped around my intestines that I'd been in quite a lot of pain for a few months. And finally, 2 days after the court case, I thought, I can't actually stand up. I took myself off to my GP, and he said, you are going straight for a scan. I had a scan, and literally 48 hours later, they'd removed this 2-kilo tumor out, and they said, you are extraordinary. That must have been agony. And I said, yeah, I just took a couple of paracetamol. He said, do you know, Joanna, you had about 5 days and that thing was going to burst, and you would have gone back to bed and you'd have never woken up. And as I lay in that hospital bed, I was doing the final documents for my investors coming in. And I think that my journey has just been, I mean, it's madness really when you look back at it. But I think the thing about women, and I would like to say that we're all unstoppable. We take these things in our stride, and we may go off and have a little weep, but then we pick ourselves up and dust ourselves off and we get on with it. Because if you've got children and you are solely responsible for feeding their little mouths, my God, that drives you. And that's what drove me. And then really the next 5 years were a blur. I worked every hour that God sent. I started building a small team. They were great, and a lot of them have been with me to the bitter end. And then in 2016, a lovely woman called Paige Sweeney posted a picture of her daughter's hands and showing one covered in eczema and the other 2 weeks later completely clear. And she said, I bought Child's Farm baby moisturizer. I've tried everything. 2 weeks and my daughter's hand cleared up. And this post on Facebook, and it was before Facebook had monetized their post, it went viral. And it was shared 30,000 times. And this was really the beginning of the madness that hit Child's Farm. It was shared everywhere. The press got hold of it. It was all over the Daily Mail. It was absolutely unbelievable. And we sold out of stock within, weeks. I was on holiday with some friends in Cornwall, and every time I was looking at the website, and every time we did £1,000, we were all having a shot. And we did £26,000 worth. And by this stage, actually, I was a bit pickled. But I suddenly thought, shit, we don't have this stock. And even if we did, it's going to take the warehouse 6 weeks to deliver it. So we shut the website down. We begged, borrowed, and stealed people to help put all this stuff out there. And it became this real labor of love. And we literally sorted ourselves out. And I said, right, we need to get some more floor stock. We need to be able to have stock available as and when we need it. And we all agreed to do that. And bugger me, if not 2 weeks later, this lovely woman, Laura Gray, posted a picture of our baby moisturizer saying, my mother bought me this and it's cured my psoriasis in 24 hours. Off it went again. It was shared 65,000 times on Facebook. Sales went through the roof. We sold £1.5 million worth of baby moisturizer in a week. We had Tesco's phoning up. I mean, I got a call from the chief executive of Morrison saying, can you please ensure we get our order, and can we have anything more that you've got? It went completely potty. And Child's Farm, in 4 years from first being on shelf, and you've got to remember, I'd never worked in retail in my life. I hadn't got a clue what I was doing. All I thought was that the way that they did things was really stupid, and let's make bath time really, really fun. And 4 years later, we were the leading brand in baby and child personal care. And to put that into context, when we started in 2014, Johnson's Baby had 33% market share. And then 5 years later, they had 20% market share. Now they have 13% market share. We're still number one. It's been a roller coaster. And we went through COVID. COVID was okay, but COVID was just so pressurized. You working mums will totally get this. I had 2 kids at school, working from home. I had to be in the office every day because I lived the nearest to it. My poor boyfriend was having to literally homeschool my children. His 2 children had already long since gone. It was the most trying time. And, as we all experienced such a terribly trying time. But we decided then that my children, and by this stage, Mum was beginning to get quite ill, I had done my time, and that I needed to spend more time with the kids, and I needed definitely spend more time with Mum. So we started last year pulling together all the documentation we needed to find a big investor in the business. I brought in a CEO, so I stood down, because what I wanted to do was create an ongoing business with a CEO, so I could step away and that they wouldn't say that, you know, that they had to have me. And in that process of trying to find this big amount of investment, we met PZ Cousins, and these are the guys that own Imperial Leather, Carex, Saint-Tropez, Sanctuary Spa, a British PLC that has an international business, and we all rather fell in love with each other. We were very aligned on sustainability. Child's Farm is a B Corp, if you know what that is. So it means that we have had all of our sustainability, our inclusivity and diversity investigated by an independent party, and we've been proven to be one of the best in the world at doing that. We're awarded B Corp status, and that means that we have a 3-year journey that we need to commit to continue to get better at over those 3 years. And so our sustainability aligned with PZ, and so did the fact that they were looking to increase their baby and child portfolio. And so in March of this year, I sold 90% of the business to PZ Cousins. And I tell you what, the day final offers came in, and we had 3 offers, was the day that Putin invaded Ukraine. And I just, I thought, God damn this. Why is it always me? And I just called everyone onto a call. Of course, we couldn't see each other. And I said, we've got to do this in 3 weeks. And we did. Everybody worked around the clock. Everyone was unbelievable. And we did that deal in 3 weeks. And a week later, I took my entire extended family away for a 2-week holiday. And that was the first holiday, international holiday. We'd been to Cornwall, we'd had in years. And it was tremendous. And since then, I act as a brand ambassador for Child's Farm. I do a lot of work around sustainability. I work with this brilliant organization, and please, please, please go and check out their website, bywomenbuilt.com. This is a collection of female founded brands. Sahar Hashimi, who I know is a great fan of you guys, created this, and it is to raise awareness of brands that are owned by women, because women get 1% of all venture capital financing in the UK. To put that into context, if we got the same as men, women would be creating 250 billion pounds worth of more money into the economy. So it's, that's, I'm having the time of my life doing that. I'm meeting some most amazing women. Go onto the website and you can see what I'm talking about. They're just fabulously cool. And I am spending a delicious amount of time with my children and being with my mother as she goes through her last stages of her life. So if anyone tells you you can't do it, you can. I have a sticker just here on my computer which says, if you can dream it, you can do it. And that's a quote from Walt Disney. And I 100% believe that if you think you can do something, you can do it. The one thing you need is faith in yourself. And if you believe in you, you can do anything. And I think if you take anything away from this, and again, I apologize profusely, I can't see your faces or shake you by the hand or give you a hug. It's this: you are more capable than you ever would believe. You are more resilient, you are more robust, you're more beautiful, you're more fun, you're more gorgeous. Believe in yourself, because if you do, everyone else will. And I hope that you can take that away and just feel fabulous about yourself. But be unstoppable. The only person that can stop you is yourself.
would be creating 250 billion pounds worth of more money into the economy. So